Yeah, we're in a bar on stage. We're big time.
Yeah, this is Mummers. We're at Mummers.
We're in Mummers Bar on stage.
Yeah.
Bartender talked about.
I'm Tyler.
I'm Sean, and this is Ellis Traits. We're gonna talk about sing songs.
Singing songs.
Song singing.
Let's give them something to talk about. Love, scuba, dog, candy, dig it.
First thing we're going to talk about is like the songs that we select are always going to be very gospel-centered, talking about the life, death, and resurrection of Christ and how that applies to us and what our response is to that. And part of it, we want to just see that we're calling this musical worship, so all of our life should be worship. The whole service is about worship. This is specifically when we are using songs and musical instruments and our voices to give praise to God.
Yeah, so historically speaking, like worship has been one of the first acts that was even recorded in the Bible. Some would say that the creation story was like a song. And there's things in Job and things in Isaiah that talk about like the stars singing. The stars were hung into place and the stars were singing. You see God's people as He removed them from Egypt and brought them into the promised land. As He set up the law, He said two interesting things. He said a lot of interesting things, but two of them were, one, I don't want you to worship any graven images, but two, I do expect you to come together and worship and party and celebrate often. And so we are not bowing down to an idol as we worship God, but we are joining together to celebrate His character and ascribing His glory together, which is super cool.
Awesome, very cool.
We also see in the New Testament, in Colossians 3, it says, let the peace of Christ dwell in you richly. And the way that we do that it says in Colossians 3 is through singing psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs. And that's just kind of the way that we gather together with the rest of the church that has existed throughout history to worship God. And so we do it kind of like a bunch of different ways, all in the same type of musical worship. So we will have like celebratory songs where it's like we're horizontally with everybody in the room celebrating who God is and celebrating why we love God and the things that He's done. And so we're kind of aware of each other in that instance. And then there's times where it's more lamenting. You see David writing psalms that are lament, and David saying, I am so contrite and so wrecked over my sin. All I can really do is like sing about it. Or all I can do is like utter this worship to you because you are good, God, and I am not. And then sometimes we'll have some praisey type of stuff where the idea is to like get together and dance and clap and sing, and the Bible would describe that like as the temple is being planned for, David sets up all of the people to carry out musical worship. And he actually, one of the guys' name was He-Man. He said, I'm going to choose He-Man to be the singer in this thing. The master of the universe, He-Man, was still subservient to the God of the universe. You have them banging cymbals, literally. That was a job. I don't even think they had a drum kit, Morgan. I think they were just hitting cymbals like this, as loud as they could, like a kid would want to. And it was all in worship to God. They had people dancing, they had choirs, they had everything. Some would say that like singing to God is the one ministry that all Christians are required to do.
So the songs that we select are always going to be, like I said, gospel-centered. It's also a reason why we don't select some songs that might be played on popular Christian radio, because they're terrible. And some of them, like, we just think are a little bit gibberish and wordy about nothing.
Yeah.
And so we always want songs that make a point, songs that will draw you in, and there's no confusion about what the song's saying or what it's pointing you towards.
Yeah, and all songs should point towards God,
Right.
not us.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be bringing attention to anything but God.
And anything that we're brought up in song is usually our sin that needs us to be saved from.
Yeah.
So anything, it's not a lot of us making vows to like be better or anything like that. Like some songs are like that. There's not going to be like the whole songs that are basically a love song to Jesus.
Yeah, no
The
prom
cheesy, the
songs.
bad, we're not going to do them. But there are going to be songs that can be emotional at times, can be theologically correct. We want historical songs and different songs such as that. So it's very intentional in the songs that we sing. So a big point of this also is like the band is not doing a performance. It's not doing a concert for us. The band is actually participating in musical worship with us and leading the congregation in that. And so really it's not for us, it's not for the band, it's worship directed towards God that the people are really being encouraged with and overhearing the words. So in our mind's eye, we need to have our mind's eye fixed on Jesus on his throne, and we should be thinking of the music going there, always upward and outward away from us. It's not for us, it's not about us, but we're there participating in it.
Yeah, I've often made the mistake of being like talking to the band and saying, hey, let's add some more double bass and do like
Right.
a breakdown.
Quicker tempo.
Let the beat drop or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes, or almost always when I say it, a mistake because it isn't about performing, it isn't
Right.
about preferences, it's about worshiping the God of the universe
Yeah.
who has graciously said that he can be approached in worship through music with instruments created by human hands. It's crazy.
And really the instruments are secondary to the lyrics.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very teachable, very much the words. What are we communicating to God about him and what he's done for us? Not like our preference thing goes through music. We can lay aside all that. We could do without the music, but the cool thing is the Psalms do talk about musical instruments, like
Yeah.
we're supposed to use them, which we should.
Yeah. Totally. One of the first commands to worship that we have was God saying, make trumpets.
Yeah.
Trumpets are the most obnoxious, loudest instruments that exist.
Yeah.
I love that tone. Sounds good to me. My morale is lifted.
But God says, I want to hear trumpets.
Clash cymbals.
And he said, I want you to blow the trumpets to tell the congregation it's time to come worship. I want you to blow the trumpets when you're entering into battle.
Yeah.
And I want you to blow the trumpets to let everybody know it's time to move. And I think all three of those things are happening on Sunday when
so
we sing.
it's such a cool thing. So you just brought musical worship and battle close together. So
Yeah.
it is when we are proclaiming the truths of God in musical worship, we are doing battle against the world who would tell us different lies than what the songs are telling us, and Satan himself who like hates this truth. We are actually going into battle on a Sunday morning musically.
Yes. This used to be called the Alley, and we would watch bands here do things.
And stuff.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go with that.